What's going on, everybody? Got a little bit of a shop update for you guys. Been a couple weeks since I've shown you guys what's going on in the shop, and there's some changes, definitely. Biggest of which is there is another car here. So this is a Plymouth Barracuda, as a lot of you may know. This actually is not mine. So this is actually my brother's car. He just moved back to California. He's been out of the state for a few years, so brought it here so he can get some work done on it. Kind of help out a little bit here and there as I can, but it's mostly him. But another Mopar kind of for the fleet. You can see right now it's in the bodywork stage. So mechanically this car is actually in pretty darn good shape. It's got a few little things still to go on it, but suspension's all rebuilt. It's got disc brakes on the front. It's a factory drum car, I think. Yeah, this factory drum on the front. So it's got, bodywork's kind of barely been started. Windows have been pulled out, interior stripped. So it's kind of the finish work going on it now. So that's what he's doing. He's raced it in New York a bit, so it's got the number on it. Didn't care too much about, looks. You're not going to wait for the car to be done to go race. You got to go out and enjoy it as soon as it's mechanically safe to do so. That's what he did. So he's going to keep racing this thing here in California. Don't know for sure what series or if it's going to be time attack only or anything like that yet, but he's building it into a very 60s period correct type car, which is super cool. So it's not going to have modern giant brakes, not going to have modern adjustable shocks, none of that stuff. It's going to be built as though it was a 60s Trans Am or A sedan car in SCCA. So it's going to be a ton of fun to drive. It is a 4-speed 318 small block, so it winds up pretty high. Ton of fun to drive. Doesn't have a big block. It's not 500 horsepower. It's probably an honest if I'm just guessing here, I don't know all the specs of the motor, but it's probably in the 300s somewhere at the wheels. There's a pretty light car, so it's a ton of fun to drive. I can't wait to do more of it. So you can see this is a pretty minor, pretty normal rust on these cars here in this big rear window area. So just kind of getting that fixed up. So these are just early, got it cleaned up. Going to be welding those up next, and it'll be a project. It's going to take some time, but mechanically it's all good. So he'll be driving this thing here and there, I'm sure. He also showed up with an extra engine, 5.9 liter Magnum, out of like a Grand Cherokee or a truck or something from the 90s. So really good engine to start with, but we have no idea what we're going to use this for yet. I mean, it's his engine. I don't know why we're saying we, but I'm sure I could buy it from him if I got a good project for it, but we'll do something cool with this. It definitely needs a total rebuild. It does sort of spin over by hand, but it's just worn out. It apparently has about 300 something thousand miles on it, and it looks pretty solid for that many miles, to be honest with you. So it's gonna be something for down the road. We don't even know what we're gonna do with that yet, but we'll do something fun with it. Maybe an off-road project for him. I don't know. He's got a couple of other projects lined up, so as soon as the Barracuda is done, the next thing I'll move in. So I'm going to have some cool content that, I'll have him talk a little bit. I don't know if he even wants to talk on here, but I'll come out and film it anyways. Other thing is the Charger. I know we all expected it to be running by now, but some life stuff got in the way and it got delayed, but we're really, really close. You can see all the front pulleys are back on it. The Hydro Boost brakes are back on it. We've got one line left for the remote oil filter, and obviously mounting the oil filter right about here-ish somewhere. So just some tightening up. That's like the last thing we have to do on the car. Everything else is hooking stuff up. Then it's just bolting the carburetor on, hook the throttle up, hook up like 10 wires, put the radiator in, hook up the hoses. It's probably 1 or 2 days of honest work left on this car, and then it's back on the road again, and it's got a new clutch from McLeod, so I've got to drive it a lot before I can go to the track. I got to put probably 1,000 miles on it or more to get the clutch fully broken in. That's their suggested situation on the clutch, is just use it. Don't go out there and do a bunch of burnouts. Don't do a bunch of high RPM pulls where there's a lot of load on the clutch. Just drive it in stop and go traffic, drive it on city streets, just cruise for a while. I think there's a specific number of clutch depressions that they want you to do, or clutch movements, if you will. So that's like the instructions, throw out bearing info. I think there was some brake info. Do not break this clutch in with chassis dyno. Normal street driving, 1,200 clutch cycles. So that's what you do. After the break-in period, then you can drive it aggressively. So 1,200 clutch cycles. So like, think about that. I mean, that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But if you drive, let's just say 100 miles, right? If it's on the freeway, you might use the clutch 15 times on that whole trip. That doesn't do much good for you. But if you drive in stop and go traffic, if you're stopping every 20 feet, pull up, stop, pull up, stop, pull up, stop, you can get like 200 clutch depressions done in probably 15 miles. So we're just gonna drive it. We're gonna go do some car shows, go to just cruise around town, just put some miles on this thing. Quite honestly, this car does not have enough miles on it. We have only driven it 650 miles, and that includes probably close to 100 on the track. So you can see it feel like we drive it a lot, but we don't. So got to put some more on it. So really happy with how it's turning out, though. The orange paint looks way better than it did before. The blue engine compartment paint looks way better. Everything just nicer and tidier. We've got some new radiator hoses that are nice silicone instead of that old black rubber stuff. Obviously, it's got to be buttoned up a little bit. Some clamps on some hoses and all that good stuff. But you know, the tidying up process happens at the end. So real happy with how it's turning out. It's not really going to be a whole lot faster. It'll be a little faster because it can now turn at 1,000 extra RPM. It was redlining at 5,000 RPM before. That was part of the whole deal of pulling this out, was to change the valve springs. Now we can turn it to 6,000 RPM. So that, on dyno last time, it was still pulling really hard at 5,000 when it hit the rev limiter and when the valves were about to float. So revving it to 6, I think we're going to pick up probably 30 to 40 peak horsepower. Obviously the power curve below 5,000 is going to be unchanged, but above 5 it should just keep going, and by our math and by our data, that should put this thing right in the neighborhood of close to 450 at the wheels at redline. So excited for that. Excited for our new bigger Willwood brakes. I had Willwood brakes on it before, of course. These are bigger, biggest you can fit into a 15-inch wheel. Didn't want to go bigger than a 15 because I just don't think it will look right. And people can pull it off on some cars, and this car I'm sure could pull it off too. But I just wanted this car to have the NASCAR type look and kind of have that, you know, 70s NASCAR at Le Mans flair. You know, speaking of the recent like Garage 56 NASCAR at Le Mans, that kind of I think energized a lot of folks maybe didn't know about the 70s NASCAR at Le Mans class, you know, and there was a 73 Charger there, Herschel McGriff and among others, the Olympia beer Charger, and that's, you know, this is obviously not a full-blown race car. It has an interior, it has all that stuff, but we wanted to build it in kind of a Le Mans style so that it would still look right, having some interior parts and pieces and headlights and taillights and all that stuff. So that's what we did. So that's really cool. The Garage 56 stuff I think was awesome. Loved that. And it definitely made it just kind of felt right, because this car was built to mimic that style to a certain extent. So that's what it's going to do. So 15-inch wheels are a must. These still have our old tires on them. We've got some new tires coming. I don't know when I'm going to get them. There's back orders and stuff and all that, but there's you can see these are a decent street tire for cruising around. They do burnouts easy, but you can see we melted them down a little bit. I don't know if you can see on the video, but there is a nice angle to all of the tread there. Really needed a little bit more camber is what that's telling me, but it's hard to say on a tire that is a 400 tread wear. You know, not exactly sticky. So these are gonna stay around as a street tire, but we're gonna throw some nice sticky tires on here for the track. So excited about that. So that's what's going on right now. Real excited for this. We got a few interior things to do. I got to change these seat belts. These are not Hans device compatible. And if you're wearing a harness on a racetrack, you need to be wearing a Hans device. And I overlooked that when we built the car the first time. So that's not getting overlooked again. So those are going to get changed. But that's, I mean, we're talking little stuff. The big stuff is done. So we got to get this thing just running again. Then I can dial that all in. So lots of good stuff happening here. Lots of cool Mopar things. Once this car is done, I'm excited to show you what he's doing next, because I'll kind of feature some of his projects here and there. kind of off-road oriented is what he has next. He's just kind of sitting there waiting in the wait. Excuse me. I've seen the car. I know what his plan is. He's got some parts to buy. Got to get settled here in California a little bit, but once he does all that, I'm real excited to see how that turns out. It's the first time building that type of car for me. He's built something kind of similar in the past, so he's got a good idea of what he wants to do, so that's going to be really cool. So that's the update on all that. As some of you may saw on Instagram, I technically do still have the Challenger Hekkcat for sale. That is something I don't want to go into too much detail on that because that is not something that I necessarily want to do. And what I'm finding is that car is worth more to me than pretty much anybody else. And it's not even close. To me, that's an easy $20,000 car. I'm finding that folks feel like that's not reasonable. So some of the auction sites said, yeah, we'll run it, but no reserve is the only way we'll list it. And I'm like, I don't think we're going to do that. So Hekkcat is probably sticking around. I had some plans for if it sold, what I was going to buy in its place. Those will get put on the back burner and wait till I can just save up the cash to do that. But those plans will still be happening at some point. But it looks like the Hekkcat is sticking around unless somebody comes out of the woodwork and wants to give me 17, 18 grand for it at minimum. You know, not like you're going to offer me more than that, but because if I told you I'll take 17, why would you offer me more than 17? But if you want it, that car's there. And if you want a track-ready Dodge to go and do something different, hey, send me a message because that's what it's at right now. So definitely looks like it's sticking around. I think that car. So if you watched the video last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, about me considering selling it, well, I did. I still could stand to sell it, but I think it's not gonna. I think that's one of those situations where I don't want to lose too much money on it, so it's gonna stick around. So I'm gonna do some more videos with that. I don't think I've done any videos yet of me driving it, so definitely want to give you guys a little bit of kind of like a point of view type video of what it is like to drive that car because it's probably different than you think. Probably handles better than you think, stops better than you think, turns into a corner better than you think, and it's hard to see that from the outside. So figuring out some cool ways to do that, but messing around a little bit with some camera angles and all kinds of cool stuff. So we're gonna get all that perfected, get a feel for that car, and then this car, of course, as well. This car is so much fun to drive that can't wait to show it to you. So thank you for tuning in, as always. Head over to red6.design to check out what we've got going on. We got shirts, we got hoodies, we got accessories, stickers are there. Jet tag keychains, which are really cool. They're remove before flight type deals, but they have the Red 6 logo on it. Love them. Those are awesome. And all sorts of other little fun things that I throw into packages here and there. Some stuff that's not even on the website, some surprise little accessories that I have not even shown yet and they're not even advertised, but I throw those in on a random order here and there. So if you want to play a little bit of game with that, order something and see what's in there. So again, thanks for tuning in. Red6.design if you want to check all that out, or follow us on Instagram, Red6Speed, pretty much everywhere. And we will see you soon.